public or something like that?
Well, border states got different rules than interstates.
Okay.
Because they border states, their use of the National Guard is more easily administered because it makes them vulnerable for invasion.
Right.
How we know that? They telling you where we got invaded at when the Califia Queens got slaughtered because they knew we was leading up to Friday the 13th free day or free a day.
Makes sense now.
All this is, I keep telling y'all, is convergence. If you watch the movement of the stars, and then if you watch the events as they unfold, it's a pattern. You watch it long enough, you just see the pattern coming even when you're not looking for it. The more you use the faculty, the more control you have of it, the more you can fine tune the skill. Right? So by seeing this stuff and knowing the process of governmental transition, you got to remember they did the same thing in South Africa. Right before they gave up the apartheid government and gave it back to the South Africans, the Queen of England, Elizabeth, issued some kind of decree, right? Then they went down there in South Africa. They listened to what she said, and they got rid of all of the armaments. Remember, right to bear arms is supposed to be a right, not a privilege. You're not supposed to put an abridgment on the privilege.
Right.
You're not supposed to license a right. A license is permission to do something that's otherwise illegal.
Right.
If it's a right, it can't be illegal whether you have a license or not.
Right.
It's only if it's a privilege can you abridge it. You can't put addendums to a right.
Right.
So they've been fighting to disarm us, but we had one problem. We had a group of gung-ho crackers, rednecks, hillbillies that don't want to give up their guns.
Well, they ain't giving them up.
So they the only reason why we got a right to get our guns.
And they said they're gonna pry. You got to pry from their dead cold hands. That's their motto. You got to pry from my dead cold hands. That's what they are. Yeah.
Right.
Real
so
deal.
While we would look, the shield worked both ways when you know what nerve to touch.
Right.
They got them convinced that the United States is the actual proper government on the land.
Right.
Right. But the contracts is the constitutional treaties. And in the Constitution, it's a right to bear arms. And because they put everybody under slavery and not just us, you have certain people that they got to maintain the appearance of superiority in order to uphold a white supremacist system. Right? So all of the stuff is they doing, they swearing up and down they not doing it while you watching them steal cookies out your cookie jar, eating them, and they's telling you, I've never seen your cookie jar before.
Yeah.
But they standing there with their hand in it, steady eating the cookies. So, yep, the secondary constitution, Rashad Jamal 3.0, was the one written in the blood of Crispus Attucks, but they don't tell you that. But it's in the George Washington Masonic Memorial. Along with the fezzes of the Moors that came, and they don't have the feathers of the chiefs that went into the conjure against them. But they got all of the fezzes on display. The chiefs can be seen on a mural of Carlos V. Carlos V is Charles V. And he had a bet with the Spanish that we would win. He had bet the Spanish king, I think it was one of the Georges, that we would win. He put his money on the tribes over here. And that's why you see he's on the mural with the I think that was Inca chiefs. But we all had to go into the darkness in order for one of us to find their way back to the light.
Man, bro, I was watching this movie, man, about in Africa when the white colonizers was first coming over there. And man, in Africa, like you didn't want to go over there during the 1600s, and before that, you didn't want to go to Africa as a white guy, man. Look, like one tribe, when they got him over there, they said, "Come on in," and then they tried to cook him. You know what I'm saying? They had already had a fire going and everything. They put him up in there with some lettuce, and tomatoes, and onion, and they were balling him.
You got to remember one thing. You can walk from Africa to Europe. You might have to swim about a quarter mile.
Go ahead.
But across the Pillars of Hercules, as they refer to,
yeah,
right? You can look on one side and see the other side. We can go swimming in the ocean over here and don't see the other side. We got some lakes over here that you can't see the other side.
Yep, like Lake Punch.
But you can stand in Africa and look into Europe with the naked eye.
Yeah.
Africans had already encountered Europeans long before they brought them over here. And this is why we had to study African root science, Medu Netter, right? Because it's telling you codes. The light codes is in the literature, right? So when we start studying the rosters, we study in the Holy Pibi, we study the Sacred Parchment Scroll of Black Supremacy. Ties back to the Ethiopian emperor, right? Because the Ethiopian emperor at one time was called the emperor of the world, right? But now we in modern times. Imperial days are long gone. Days of kings are long gone, or so we thought. The days of these people being publicly known is what's been long gone. The puppets that represents the will of these people is called the boule. The boule are the ones who learn the language of the French king to be able to talk to him in the king's language. That means code. Right? Now remember, they got King's Day rebellions scheduled. It's called King's Day Rebellion. What has the king ever rebelled against if he the king? Think about it, Elder. You king of your castle. In your house, you muted.
They rebel against the people, bro.
No, you in your house. You the king. You can't rebel against the people, but the people can rebel against you.
Yeah.
In your kingdom, you the ultimate power, or are you?
Right.
Who would the king rebel against? There's only one person in this house he'll rebel against.
The queen.
Sit.
Man.
Patriarchy.
Yeah.
The
it makes sense.
Extra feminine king. They called him King John for a reason. And Magna Carta is the work that he wrote, the Great Charter. Right? To make the commoner and the king appear on the same level. Now notice the word appear. Right? So King John in the Magna Carta. Now what that got to do with John D?
Go ahead. That ties like you tie in.
Who did they say that the queen fired and ran from her royal house? Go pull back up the first John D video.
All right.
Listen close to what she say. This is important, right? They telling us the story as is unraveling because it already happened.
John D. Yeah, John D.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I'm starting to put all this together. I'm gonna go look more into the this Conjure. We got another tape. We did 2 tapes a long time ago where you broke down more in detail on the Conjure. I'm gonna put that in the links too. It's called Conjure Part 1 and Part 2. Those classes right there. That was lit. But we'll take a couple. We got about maybe like 15 minutes. We'll take a couple questions from the crowd. Y'all got any questions for Chief Raw Hayes? Drop it in the links, man. Let's see right here.
Tell him my Cash App, man.
Oh yeah, I got the Cash App right here. I'm gonna drop it. Put it on the screen right now. I got the Cash App and
No,
the PayPal.
the PayPal. So I want you to tell him because people be trying to send me stuff on Cash App, and it ain't been letting it come through. It kind of lets some come through. So if it don't work, then use the PayPal.
Yeah, I got the
if it don't
PayPal
work.
and the Cash App up there.
Yeah. So you could try to Cash App first. If they send it back, then you have to send it. Then you got to send it on PayPal.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I'll start the questions. That says I want to confirm access to the website. What's the link? What website? Do you think a blackout will hit this year in America?
You know what? A blackout can mean a lot of different stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? It's, a media blackout is when the event happened and the media doesn't cover it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? So you got different forms of blackout. So I know we have to have something that signifies the Great Reset, and before they could do the Great Reset, we have to watch the unfolding of the narrative play to a conclusion. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, Chief, if you could elaborate on the Congress board structure, whom would you put on the board? If you could create your own structure, hold on, let's see what this says.
I wouldn't use it in the way that they use it. I use it the way that the matriarchs used to use it. Congress is short for Congress of Mayors, right? And it used to be a meeting of town mothers before the government took it over and use it as if they own. And the Congress of Mayors was a meeting of matriarchs, and most city capitals had a Congress. Or most regional city capitals. Mm-hmm. We had like the land wasn't broke up into 50, 48 continental states. It wasn't broke up like that. It was divided up by lines of demarcation by territorial boundaries. And this is how people become associated with a river, because the river they associated with is what they named after. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Like the Shoshone is named after the Shoshone River, branch of Old Mississippi. Right? But the Upshaw is Upper Shoshone. I mean that they was from the upper portion of the river. So you had the regular Shoshone, they was probably on the lower portion, as they would call it, but they was there first. So you had to identify the secondary tribe, which is probably like a brother that couldn't get along with the father, and his brothers ran him out. Go set your own tribe up. Big Mama point a piece of land. These are your lines of demarcation. So he wanted to be tied to the Shoshone too. So he said, well, they Shoshone, so we Upper Shoshone, becomes the name Upshaw in the English language, right? And a lot of that happened where you have hyphenated or you have compound last names like Goldsmith, right? The Goldsmith who used to smelt the gold for the tribes. We used to have our own currency. right? And this is how they knew we was wealthy. It started back in Columbus's journal. You gotta remember, Mansa Musa also disseminated large quantities of gold across the land when he came.
That's right.
Or his brother did, Abu Bakari, right? And Daco coins was circulating on the land. It still had the seal from where they came from in Ghana.
Right.
This is why they keep trying to tell us we from West Africa, because they believe that the Ghanaian blood from the West African tribes, because we have kingdoms and then we have empires, right? In one kingdom, you can have a king and you can have 50 princes that all got a territory, right? And so when they come over as indistinct haplogroups from a father line under patriarchy, but if they got a territorial right, most of them not leaving their motherland. They not coming over here, the women not. And this is why you see a lot of the travelers, it was hardly ever females on pirate ships.
Right.
Right. Most ships because this is during reset period. We coming out of a cataclysmic event, a global destruction.
Yeah, that's all right.
And as we putting it back together, you have people that's actively interfering to slow our progress down so that in the meantime, they can get as much benefit from it as possible.
Right.
Right. Well, if they leave us to our own devices, we go naturally farm the land. We're not working in no factory. So somebody got to have a factory that their family is big enough to work in. If you're going to make factory goods, most of the bakers, they was the ones on the bakery.
Yeah, the bakers.
You know, yeah, the cooks. That's where all your chefs was coming from. The kings, the royal bloodline. They call them king for a reason. Their last name king for a reason. Because over here we didn't have titles of nobility, and they prohibited by the Constitution. But they gave them the name. The name is not king, because it comes from the 3-letter word KNG, which means father of the family. Right. Which is why they didn't. That's why they still allowed them to use it, even though it's prohibited in the Constitution. But if you try to change your name to a title of nobility, they won't let you.
And but you know, Rod, all the lawyers still carry Esquire. So really, all them the judges,
but their children can't.
Huh?
The lawyer can carry it, but the only way his children can carry it is they have to follow in their father's profession.
Now, what I'm saying
or mother's profession.
That should automatically disqualify them in the court when they go in with the Esquire, being that the Constitution says that you can't have no title of nobility. They automatically disqualify them.
Well, you got to remember, the courts is not from over here.
Go ahead.
They the one, the barristers is the ones running the court system for England, not for us.
That's right.
We have tribal courts over here. The chief don't have to be a certified attorney with the American Bar Association to go into a tribal court and argue your case. He just got to have the ability to understand the evidence and how to explain or question it to the level where you can prove your point. All of the other stuff, that's just extra stuff that they did to put roadblocks in our way. I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about. It amazes me how many people don't know that the capital for the longest time over here was New Orleans. That just blows my mind. That you couldn't even get on the land until the settlers came, unless you came through New Orleans. You on mute, Elder?
The Moors moved it to Philadelphia, and then they moved it again to D.C.
And it moved to New York. The immigration moved to New York.
So it was in New York first, at New Amsterdam. Then they moved it to Philadelphia. Then they moved it to D.C.
Philadelphia was the political capital.
Okay,
but
right.
the immigration port moved from Port Nola because we was fighting war in the Gulf.
That's right, against the French. Yeah.
So we had to open up our immigrants on another part of the land. And we also fighting the Spanish Armada on the West Coast. You got to remember that too.
Yeah.
We got to remember that California was defending themselves against the Spaniards. It wasn't California, it was a territory.
Go ahead.
It became California when they chartered it under the Spaniards. It became New Mexico when they annexed it from Mexico. It became Texas when they annexed it from Mexico. But other than that, they had different names. Right now, if Texas want to secede from the Union, they can break up into as many as 5 different states or nations based on geography. They the only state in the Union that kept that right.
Hey, QT Jones, QT Jones, funny man. It's about why the Moors not still around. Why haven't they been eliminated?
Because all of the Moors ain't bad.
Yeah, that's right.
I keep telling everybody, you got 2 factions of Moors. You got the righteous Moors and the dirty Moors. The term Moor is the catch term to put us under for us to fight the war of an intellectual conflict out.
Yeah.
Right? To educate ourselves above the condition. Now, the problem is when they elders become elders and go back to where they come from, that with they elders keeping us in line. Them the dirty Moors. By using the extension groups like the United States Corporation, like the JDL, the ADL, right? The country over there that they call Israel. All of those are distractions and